and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylee and these are my books. I'm so excited to be filming my March TBR today. I can't wait to see what books I will be reading, although I have a lot of required reads for March, like a lot of required reads for March. I'm not sure how many extra books I will be able to read. I have to read 9 Spiffbo books, 9 self-published fantasy blog off books, because I am participating in Cassidy's version of the SPFBO contest. I'll leave a video with more details about that linked below, but basically I have procrastinated on reading these books, and so I have this month to read 9 of them. There are 10 total. I have made progress by reading 1. I have read 1 out of the 10. But this month I really need to buckle down and actually read these books. I'm excited for them. But for some reason I've just also procrastinated a ton. So I'm gonna try to fit as many of those books into my TBR game as possible. But of course, with the way my TBR game is structured, it starts out with thriller horror, then moves into fantasy, then moves into romance. So I can only fit in as many of these self-published fantasy books as I am able to land on in the fantasy section. So I'm actually, fingers crossed, hoping to land mostly in the fantasy section for my game, which I haven't even told you about. I do a TBR game every single month on my channel. It's called TBRLAND, and it is inspired by Candyland. You know what? Enough of me blabbering away. Let me just send you into me pulling the first card. Hello. Okay, first card pull. I'm very excited and very nervous. I would love to land on this spot, just generic horror, be able to get Song of the Void on here. Let's see what I get. Oh my god! Oh my god! I don't even have my game piece yet. Let me grab it. Alright, here is my game piece. I got 1 green and I landed on horror. That's crazy. I swear that wasn't planned. I know it really looks like I cheated for that, but I swear. So not only did I land on horror, but now I get to use the alien bridge to go directly into fantasy and science fiction. Oh my goodness, that could not have gone any better. All right, the first card pull is literally perfect. I could not have cheated and made it better even if I wanted to. I did not cheat. It just really looks like I cheated because exactly what I wanted to happen happened. But I'm so happy about it. So basically, I landed on the horror spot, which I was really hoping for because there is a cosmic horror amongst the SPFBO finalists. Therefore, I can include one of these self-published fantasy books in the horror section, which is confusing. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but we're going with it. And that book is A Song for the Void. This is a cosmic horror book. Of course, it is self-published, hence it being in this contest. And this is a history retelling of the Opium Wars. But I think with the sea warfare, there's also a sea monster going on. And so people are having to, of course, have the horrors and monstrosities of war paired for possibly an actual monstrosity in the ocean. We'll see. I don't know a ton about this book. I know it goes weird because all cosmic horror goes weird. I am excited to try it and excited to see why this cosmic horror is in a fantasy competition. But mostly I'm just excited to have been able to fit this book into my TBR. All right, now time for our second card pull. 1 purple. So we're just going across this alien bridge and we're hitting Start a Series. And the Start a Series is in the fantasy and science fiction section. So I'm starting a new fantasy or science fiction series. All right, then because of the bridge, our second card pull already put us into the fantasy and science fiction section of my game. And we landed on Start a Series. I had a couple of options for this, but I think I'm gonna go with 13th Hour. This is book 1 of the Cruel Gods series. This is also a SPFBO finalist, meaning it is also self-published fantasy. And this one I'm so hyped for. It sounds so good. So basically this is a steampunk fantasy where in this world, in this society, everyone really worships these gods, and these gods are present in the lifetime. These gods control lots of aspects of society, and the humans that worship them are called saints. But there's also some sinners in this society, and these sinners are the outcasts, these sinners are the criminals, and the sinners are the ones that defy the gods. But when monsters start attacking the society, and it seems like the gods aren't too concerned with it, it may take a sinner to save humanity. So I'm excited. I love fantasy stories where we have these powerful gods, but then like a lone human has to go up against them and fight them. It maybe has a bit of the chosen one trope, because I think the sinner that we follow has some special powers that they're investigating they've never seen before and might allow her to rival the gods. I don't know. I'm very interested in this book. I'm excited to read it, and steampunk fantasy just sounds so freaking cool. Time for the third card pull. One pink, so a backlist fantasy or science fiction book. Next up, we landed on a backlist science fiction or fantasy book, and for this, I'm going with Memories of Ice. The live show for this book, this is book 3 in the Malazan series, is in the middle of March, so I need to read this at the beginning of March because there's a live show where I will be discussing it only about 2 weeks away from now. So I'm excited to have gotten this book on the TBR too. I am participating in a Malazan read-along along with a lot of other cool booktubers, and we are on book 3 of the series now called Memories of Ice. Malazan is a large, epic fantasy that is very much world-based, in my opinion. You know how you hear plot-based fantasy or plot-focused fantasy, character-focused fantasy. Malazan, in my opinion, is world-based fantasy, so it can be a little bit difficult to approach the books. The books are a bit dense, but I have been enjoying my time with the series. I say that with a big asterisk next to it. Check out the live shows below if you want more of my thoughts, but I am continuing on, and I am excited to see what happens in book 3, which is Memories of Ice, and so I'm happy it's on my TBR. Time for the fourth card pull. Double purple, so we skip this purple and move into an indie or a self-pub fantasy or science fiction. Perfect. Next up, we landed on another perfect prompt for this month, which is an indie or self-published fantasy. It's like the game knew I had so many indie and self-published fantasies to read for my Spiffbo books. So I am choosing Small Miracles to go for this prompt. This is actually a cozy fantasy that has been getting a lot of positive reviews. I am very interested to read it because, you know, cozy fantasy is one of those subgenres that's really blown up this year, in my opinion, but I've only read a very limited amount of cozy fantasy. So I'm excited to read more in the genre, find out if that's a genre for me or not, and one way for me to do that is to read Small Miracles. Small Miracles is an angel and demon story. I've heard it described as similar to Good Omens, and it's kind of cozy, it's got some humor in it, and I've heard that the characters in Small Miracles are really good. All right, time for our fifth card pull. One pink, so we're moving out of fantasy and science fiction into the romance section. We landed on traditionally published romance. All right, then we left the fantasy and science fiction section, which, you know, is bound to happen and still I'm a little bit sad about, and we moved into the romance section. The first thing we landed on was traditionally published romance. So I could not even choose any of my self-published fantasy books to fit this, because the whole point of them being self-published fantasy is that they are not traditionally published. So for traditionally published romance, I'm going with The Unhoneymooners. I'm going with this book because this book has been on my TBR for literal years. I have wanted to read this book for so long now. And so this month is the month, you know, I was just looking through the books that I physically own that are traditionally published romance books, and I just chose the one that's been on the TBR the longest, hence The Unhoneymooners. This is a hate to love romance where basically I think some people get married, but then they get sick and they're not able to go on their honeymoon, so they send the maid of honor and the best man on the honeymoon instead because it's a non-refundable trip. But these two people hate each other. However, they have to pretend like they've just been married to get all the benefits of this free vacation. And so hate to love, fake dating, all that kind of good stuff. And I really love vacation settings in romance books. So I'm really excited for this book, actually. Even though it was nowhere on my radar for March. March really was seemingly just pure fantasy. But now we have a light contemporary romance to break up the fantasy, I guess. Time for the sixth card pull. A double blue, so we move past continue a series and into fantasy romance. All right, next up we landed on fantasy romance, which is perfect because you may have been able to guess at this point, but I'm including a Spiffbo book on there, and it is called Scales and Sensibilities. So this is a fantasy romance, I would say cozy fantasy romance that is in the spirit of a Jane Austen retelling, except there are dragons. So it's a historical romance. I believe it's Regency romance. I could be wrong in that historical time period, but I mean Jane Austen retelling. I think it's Regency romance. And it's basically what if Jane Austen books had dragons in them. So that's intriguing. Honestly, I can't lie though, this cover is horrendous in my opinion. I'm so sorry, I hate this cover. And so this is one of the self-published fantasy books that I have to read for this month that I'm the least excited about purely because of the cover. And I know that's not fair for the book's content. And yet, I still feel this way. So I'm excited to see if I could be wrong and I should not be judging the book by its cover because I'm reading it no matter what. And I would love to love this book. All right, we're getting to the part of the board where we might be done with this card pull. We might not be. Let's see what we get. 1 green. Okay, so we are not done yet, and we are landed on a book that is less than 200 pages for romance. All right, and then we landed on less than 200 pages in the romance section, and I'm cheating a little bit, okay? I'm so sorry, but I'm cheating a little bit. This book is 213 pages, I think. Yeah, it's 213 pages. But, you know, technically it's 212 pages and a half. So it's not even a full 213, you know? But I'm sorry. I really wanted to pull some more physical books off of my shelf because I'm reading so many ebooks this month, and this book was so close to fitting the criteria that I'm fudging it a little bit, and I am choosing Desperate Measures, this 213 page book, for the prompt that a book has to be less than 200 pages. It's happening. I'm so sorry to tell you that I'm cheating. This book, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it, but I'm excited to try it. It's such a popular book, and so many people have such strong opinions of this book, either very, very good or very, very bad. So I'm interested to see where I lie in it. This is Disney villain retellings, where what if the princess ended up with the villain? And I believe this is like a Jasmine and Jafar retelling. I've heard it's very, very smutty, and I'm trying to figure out what my preferred ratio of plot to smut is, because I do need some plot, but the question is, does this have enough plot? Does this fit my criteria? I do not know yet. So we'll see. If it has some plot, I could really, really love it. If it really is just purely smut with no plot for 200 pages, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it, but either way, I'm excited to give it a go. All right, our 8th card pull, and probably the last one unless we get 1 blue. And we didn't, we got a double blue. So we've moved into Mood Read, which finishes our game. And then we landed on Mood Read, which typically I have to take a punishment for, because this is the space where if I did not finish my TBR from the last month, then I get a randomly generated book instead, and I don't get given a gracious, beautiful mood read. But for the first time ever, in January, I finished my TBR. And I always do a month in the past because I'm filming this in February, so I don't know if I finished my February TBR or not. But I finished January TBR, so that means I actually get a mood read and not a randomly generated book. So some mood read options are, potentially I might read The Name of All Things, because I read The Ruin of Kings, which you might be able to see behind me here, in February, and it's one of my new favorite books of all time, and this is the sequel, so I might pick up this one. For a mood read, I might pick up Hellbent. I still haven't read Hellbent yet, and Ninth House is one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm excited to read the sequel. And then also for a mood read, I might pick up episode 13, because I'm currently like 60 pages in, and I had to put it down for some of these fantasy priority reads. But I would love to be able to pick this back up in March, so this might be another mood read option. I'm not sure which, but it will most likely end up being one of these. All right, and that is it. That is my whole TBR for March. Of course, I will be reading books in addition to the ones selected from the game, because I really need to finish all of those SBFBO books. But these books selected by my TBR game are my highest priority reads now, so I'm excited I was able to get a lot of SBFBO books on there. I feel like the board was really nice to me this time, especially giving me prompts that I could use, even in the horror and the romance section, to put some of these self-published fantasy books on the TBR. Perfect. Thank you so much, game. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and subscribe for more content. And let me know down in the comments what you plan on reading in the month of March. I'm very curious. Do we have any overlap? Are you planning on reading any of the books that I selected for myself? But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!